Okay, this second section, factors of production. This is a very interesting section. So first, we're gonna talk about what are these factors of production, or we can also call them FOPs. This is just short for factors of production. Now, they're called resources used in the production of goods and services. Um, so what are those? So, for example, we have houses, we have cars, right? We have all these goods and services. The things that we use to produce these things that are called the factors of production. Now, this is very similar to resources we talked last time, right? So we actually introduced this thing called the economic resources. This is the same thing as these factors of production. And you can see from this photo, these workers, they're considered as a factor of production because they produce these goods and services. So they are considered as FOPs. Now, factors of production are separated into four types of categories. The first type is labor, and their definition is human effort used in production. This is a very important definition. But when you think about labor, you can just think about just workers, workers that are, for example, in this picture, these farmers, or working in factories. So basically humans, workers. For example, pole dancers are also a type of labor because they produce these pole dancing and people desire pole dancing. So it is a type of service. So actually pole dancer is also a type of labor. And labor, they are paid with this thing called wages. This is also very important. So labor, they're paid with wages. The second factor of production is called land, and they are gifts of nature used in production. Now, when you think about land, it is easy to just think about these farmlands, for example, or very flat pieces of land, or your shop. These are kinds of lands, but actually, every gift of nature are considered as land. Does this mean, for example, fish in the sea? Fish are considered a type of land. Why? Because they are a gift of nature, right? And when we fish, um, they are actually used in production because we fish them, right? We fish them out and we eat them. So fish are a type of land. How about coal? Coal are also a type of land because they are also a gift of nature and they are used in production when we generate electricity by burning the coal. So everything related to nature that are gifted by nature and used in production, they are considered as land. They don't have to be this flat land or this farmland. And they are paid with this thing called rent. So we pay land with rent. The third one is called capital. Now, a synonym to capital is called as capital goods. They're just the same meaning. So when you see capital goods, just think about capital. And capital are considered as human-made tools that aid in production. It's very, very interesting. But when you think about this, you can just think about, machines, these machines. But capital doesn't necessarily have to be these very expensive machinery. For example, when you're farming, you have a farmland. If you use this kind of a fork, use this fork to farm, that is considered as a type of capital because that is a human-made tool and it also aids in production because you're using it to farm. You're not using your hands. So it doesn't have to be very expensive machinery. It just has to be a human-made tool that aids in production. Now, a common misconception is that money is a type of capital, but in economics we don't call money as capital because we don't use money to produce, right? We just use it to buy things. We don't use money to produce. So it is not a type of capital. Money is not capital. And capital gets paid with the thing called the interest. Now the final one and a very interesting one is called this enterprise. And the definition of the enterprise is two main parts. The first one is that it is the factor of production that bears the risk and makes key decisions in production. So an easier way to think about this is enterprise is the owner of a business. For example, you have Amazon, you have Tesla. Now, the owner of those businesses are the enterprise. So, you know, Jeff Bezos with his bald head is the enterprise of Amazon, and Elon Musk is the enterprise of Tesla. So you can think of them as the owner. And the reason why they are enterprise is because they bear the risks. If Tesla or Amazon fails, Elon Musk and Bezos, they go bankrupt. So they bear the risks of that business. The second one is that they make the key decisions, right? So when facing key decisions about their production, they make the decisions because they are the owner of the business. And another very important point is that enterprise combines the other three FOPs together to produce. So what does this mean? It means that if you take enterprise away, if you take Jeff Bezos away, um, the land, the labor, and the capital that produces for Amazon, they can't work. It requires Jeff Bezos, the enterprise, to combine all of the other three FOPs together to produce. So without Jeff Bezos, they cannot produce. You need enterprise for production to happen. And enterprise is paid with the profits. Now, a thing I should mention is that um, the land and the labor, when you make money, right? You make money, the land and the labor, two L's, they are paid first. So you give the wages to the labor, you give the rent to the land, and then you pay the capital. And after you pay the capital, what is left are the profits. What is left, you pay enterprise. So enterprise gets paid last. First, you pay the two L's, then you pay the capital, and last, you pay the enterprise. And then there's this idea called mobility. So there are two types of mobilities. The first type is called occupational mobility. It's a fancy way to say how difficult it is to change the use of factors of production. For example, right now I have this machine, right? And I'm using this machine to produce clothes. Clothes. I want to change it. I don't want to produce clothes anymore. I want to produce, say, socks. I want to start producing, books. How difficult is it for me to change the production from clothes to socks or to books? So how difficult is this process? They are called occupational mobility. If it is hard to change from producing a clothes to a sock or change the use of the FOP, that is called immobile. That means that this factor of production is immobile. But if it is easy to change, that factor of production is called occupationally mobile. So immobile means difficult to change, mobile means easy to change. And then geographical mobility just means how difficult it is to change the location of the FOP. For example, I have this very heavy piece of machine that is very hard to change the location of it. I have this very tiny one. It's easier to change. If I have a piece of farmland, on the other hand, that is very, very hard to change the location, nearly impossible. I have a pole dancer here. It's easy to change the location. And then there is this productivity of the factors of production. So productivity just means how much goods and services the FOPs can produce. So if I can produce more products, I can produce more houses. If I can produce more houses, then the productivity of the FOP are high. Now, the productivity depends on two things. The first one is called the quality of the FOPs. If the FOPs are very efficient, which means they are very high quality, then the productivity will also be very high. But if the quantity is very high as well, then you can produce more because you have more of the FOPs. If I have more workers, I can produce more goods and services. And that will end for this section. We have to look at some practice questions. First one, which statement about the factors of production is correct? So, okay, A, capital is a financial resource and includes savings in banks. We talked about this before. Money is not considered as capital. So money is not capital because capital are tools, human-made tools that aid in production. Money does not produce. So money is not a type of capital. So savings in banks are capital. That is wrong. Second one, enterprise is limited in supply and includes office workers. Now, we already said that the enterprise, they are the owners of the businesses, but office workers, these are workers. What are workers? Workers are the labor, right? Workers are the labor, so that is wrong. Enterprise is not office workers, but they are limited in supply. That is correct. Oh, sorry. That is wrong. So C, labor is a human resource and includes pensioners and children. Of course, this is not right. Children and pensioners, they're either retired for pensioners and children too small to work, so they are not labor, they are not workers. Finally, land is a natural resource, includes fish, trees, and fish. Now, of course, this we also talked about. Trees are fish. We use the fish to produce because we fish it out to eat, and it is also a gift of nature. Trees, I don't know how we use it to produce, but it also is a gift of nature, and we can also use it to produce. For example, we can cut it down to make paper or produce lots of things, so it is also considered as land. Second question. Sorry for the pronunciation, by the way. Sanjay is a risk taker and sets up a restaurant in Chennai. Sanjay works for the business as a chef. He leases the restaurant building from Raghav and employs him to serve the customers. Which income is earned by Sanjay and let's look at some keywords here. Risk taker, right? This just shows that this Sanjay is the enterprise because we know that the enterprise are the risk takers and the key decision makers, right? So Sanjay is the enterprise. And Sanjay works for the business as a chef. If he works for the business, that means that he is a worker. So Sanjay is also a labor. He leases the restaurant building from Raghav and employs him to serve the customers. If he leases the building from this guy, Raghav, that means that he is the owner of the building. That means he is the owner of the land. He owns the land, right? He owns the land. And he is also employed to serve the customers. It means he's also labor as well. He's also labor. So he owns the land, but he is also the labor for some reason. So which income is earned by Sanjay and Raghav? So we already know that this enterprise earns the profits. Capital earns the interest. Labor earns the wages. The land earns the rent. Right. So Sanjay, the enterprise and the labor, so he earns profits and the wages. Raghav is the owner of the land and also a laborer, so he earns the rent and wages. That's it for today.